So, we're at the halfway mark of 2025, and truth be told, the past 6 months have been pretty boring on the new launch front given how we entered 2024. So we're at the lights of notable few launches like ORI, OMG, launching with hardly any presence in the OCR region. And the bad news is this would likely stay the same with Canberra Crescent and Springleaf, and potentially the one at Faber Walk being the only few in the OCR launching because the focus will be in the CCR region. In my 15 years of experience, this is about the only time that there's so many new supply coming into the CCR market at one go, with majority coming in the River Valley, Robertson area, with one at Orchard Boulevard. And in today's episode of Pocket View Insights, not picking the right launch, I won't specifically be talking about any launch for today. We'll talk shop about River Valley, the buying sentiments for CCR, and everything about the neighborhood before we start discussing about the properties there or launches in time to come. Disclaimer, whatever I share does not constitute financial advice. It is solely based on my opinion on what is right or wrong. So please do your own due diligence. If you're liking the content so far, please hit the like and subscribe button as your simple gesture will help a lot with the YouTube algorithm. If you're interested to find out more about property related matters, please find all the social media handles I am on, or you can just directly reach out to me on WhatsApp. Separately, I have also set up a Telegram group at the start of the year so that we can have a discussion that we as agents are not allowed to do so online, which is to talk shit. So if you are interested to get into a community that talks about everything under the sun about property, please scan the QR code, or for the boomers out there, I have pasted the link in my description. We're going to close the group invitation in probably a month or 2 times, so head over and I will see you there. Now back to the video. First and foremost, there's going to be like 5 launches coming up in and around this 3 neighborhood. So I thought it's kind of relevant to talk about this area that has seen plenty of negative sentiments towards a region that isn't the most optimal investment choice. Well, guess what? That's a fact that the OCR and RCR region has outperformed the CCR market in the past 5 to 6 years. Why? Because as explained many times over the many videos that I've done, the hot money is in the upgraders market and still will continue to do so given HDB prices are still trending upwards, although at a much slower pace. Now, government even recently threw the idea that they might relax on the 15-month wait-out period once the market shows clear signs that it is ready for that. Now, will that happen? I believe so, but the golden question is when. And given I'm someone who analyzes a lot of stats, the stats must show that HDB prices are coming down before you can even dream of that happening. Because besides being obsessed with data and numbers, I'm also an observer of human behavioral and sentiments. Now, government is always thinking 1 or if not 2 steps ahead. They absolutely will not roll back on measures unless they have to, and everything to them is very calculated. The question beckons, why do people still buy even though they know the capital upside or appreciation is questionable? So if the key driver of the market is still in the HDB market, we expect the demand to still be strong for OCR properties, which explains why the leftover inventory in the OCR region is pathetically low. Now, if the prices in the OCR and RCR starts to narrow its gap with the CCR market, there will bound to be a time where more attention will be in the CCR region where certain segments will see good value. Now, I know the stigma against CCR has been data-driven. The profits hasn't been too good. In fact, a lot of the CCR properties either break even or even lost money for like the past 10-15 years. But being a very precise person, I got to tell you that it is because you lump all the bad ones and the good ones all together to form the narrative that CCR sucks. So whatever I say next is based on my opinion market and doesn't represent the position of Prognex. And what are the very bad ones? Of course, CBD and Sentosa. I think I've consistently shit about it long enough here, so I don't want to dive into that or further elaborate. What are the bad ones? Well, these are Orchard, some Newton properties, and high-end luxury, where unless you get a good price. What are the good ones? River Valley, and the Robson area. Now, if you don't believe me, you run your own research, you will see that numbers are pretty healthy for the good ones. Now, the price movements are very similar to that of Mayor Road in District 15. It is not cheap, you'll pay a premium for it, but on the longer run, if you buy the right one, you still make pretty decent gains. That's why I believe the squeakiness that is going on in District 1 and 2 area, alongside certain high-end lux, has dragged this CCR segment quite some bit. And that's not exactly fair to River Valley, because if not for them, the index will perform far worse. So, the answer is preference. Now, real estate ultimately is a tangible asset. It's a roof over one's head, a home for most. You can feel it, you can touch it, you can see it. So when you do all of the above, then there's bound to be preference for location based on needs or social class differences, whether we like it or we don't. Not everything has a monetary value to it, because after years of dealing with all walks of life, I've learned how to see things in others' perspective. Some may see the investment value of it just by having a dream house that makes you feel home. It can even be in the CBD or Sentosa that hasn't performed at all, because you can call it an investment into one's own happiness. Now, it's like me pushing a really good investment property in the OCR region to a high net worth client who is only fixated on properties in the core region. Even though the numbers might make sense, some of them can never bring themselves to buy it. You just can't. That's why every segment in Singapore will have a target audience. The only question is how broad a market these target audiences are, because OCR attracts HDB upgraders, RCR attracts OCR upgraders, and CCR attracts many foreigners and a more affluent group of people. Now, if the market for each type is lesser, then naturally less movement lor. You cannot just say, "Aiya, CCR cannot buy lah, just buy OCR lah." Then who buys the rest? I mean, there's bound to be someone who wants to be in a CCR lah. So there's never a binary answer to it. Anyway, I think I'm deviating too far away from the main topic for discussion today, but I thought I will still need to elaborate this one last time. Not everyone can accept being in the OCR that is so highly popular. Okay, back to CCR. So as clear as it is that the CCR has been lagging behind all the other segments in the property market in Singapore, the truth is that the River Valley has been one of the silver lining, or rather neighborhoods, that's holding the fort in this region. Now, aside from the small plots of land underperforming, the larger ones are doing pretty well. And why is River Valley pretty sought after? Firstly, the prices there isn't that high, so it's not that out of reach to the locals. Granted, it is not the cheapest, but it is really sandwiched between the RCR and the high-end lux segment. Secondly, there's quite a good mix of demography in the neighborhood. You have a lot of expats loving the area for its close proximity to City Central and Orchard, because geographically, River Valley is actually in the middle of these two locations. Of course, it is so close to the nightlife that the Singapore River belt of Robertson is able to give to you. On the other stretch of River Valley, closer to the lower delta where Valley Park is, you have a row of shop houses that has pretty good mix of F&B variety, a bit like the options we have at the East Coast Road closer to Juchet. Of course, you also got the Zion Road Food Centre for more of your local food at slightly higher hawker prices for its location. Then for family with kids, you also can take a walk along the park connector that stretches as far as the Queenstown area all the way to Singapore River, bypassing River Valley along the way. I also noticed one thing: aside from local and expats, there's somehow a strong presence of Indonesian nationality. I mean, I have no idea why the preference, but from my experience, I have plenty of them residing in the neighborhood, and I know their requirements are usually that of like minimum 999 or freehold, because they exclusively only want 999 or freehold properties. Third, the presence of a pretty reputable school is there in River Valley Primary. Now, when you have a school in an area like this, you still will consistently attract a pool of locals wanting to live in the neighborhood. Now, that's quite important, because apart from Bukit Timah, where it is termed generally as a school zone, the other parts of CCR does not even have a presence of school. I mean, Newton has, but the rest lah. Again, no school means locals may not see the need or urgency to want to live in that specific neighborhood beyond its superior location. Fourth, aside from just a handful of smaller developments, the land size there are all pretty sizable. And guys, this is where I'm going to spend a little bit more time diving in on. Like every other districts, especially in the more affluent neighborhoods, land size matters. Now, why does land size matter? Because the larger land size you got, the more facilities you can build, the more grounds for you to move around, and the more feel-good factor you would have. As a fellow hater of small developments, I will usually shun away from it unless the layout is so good that you're willing to drop the idea of having a sizable plot, or if the price is so attractive, you're willing to bite the bullet again for not having a good enough plot. Other than that, that's the tangible aspect of real estate. The feel-good factor must be there, and smaller plots usually take that away as there's not much to really move around. Then when you are already paying a certain premium for a property, like in the atas area of CCR, you want to live in a better setup. So once we stress test against land size, we still got to look at the layouts and ultimately its pricing. Again, unless you get a significant discount or a much better layout, they don't tend to perform too well. The smaller developments. In my previous cycle of investment, we actually bought a small development in District 15 along Mayor Road, Arthur Road, specifically called Arthur 118. Now at the point of time, not at that point of time, it still has a very good layout and was trading at a discount of close to 20% off neighboring larger plots. Now, ultimately, we still make money from it, but similarly, on the opposite side of Margate Road, there is a 8M residences where the layouts are very normal and prices were also very, very normal back then. So fast forward to now, the owners there are not making too much, and that's the fact of whether you like it or not. So back to River Valley, if you study the profitable projects versus the not so profitable ones, you will see that the most distinctive difference is and size. So you see, profitable ones, to name a few, notice the similarity: Rivergate, Trillium, Cosmopolitan, Valley Park, Aspen Heights, Martin Modern, even the 1,000 years old Yong An Park for an example, versus the small plots like Starlight Suites, RV Altitude, Martin H, and Lumos, to name a few. Now, I want to bring an example in Lumos, and again, no disrespect to any owners out there, I'm just going to talk about the layout a little bit. If you look at the 1 and 2 bedroom layout, what's going on, bro? Were you drunk, the architect, while sketching the floor plans? Then you start to become a little bit sober when you design the 3 bedrooms. Let's look at the 3 bedrooms, okay? 1,755 square feet, very sizable, but how much space exactly goes to the planter? You are literally held entirely by the planter box. What's the problem with that? Look how narrow it is. What can you really do with it besides putting pots of plants? Then given it's in a very luxe neighborhood, your rooms are like those new launch sizes these days. And bearing in mind, this development is already 14 years old. It's being built in an era that sizes are still not too small yet. So when you do that in that era of properties and sizes, your demand shrinks dramatically. Because who is your target audiences? The more affluent group of people. Can they accept such wasted space in the planter? Can they accept rooms being so small given they are quite atas? That's why Lumos hasn't been performing too well given its prime location and very attractive per square foot. So this is one problem I have with the newer launches these days in the CCR. Some developers tend to bring that mass market setup into this product. What I mean by that? Building layouts that fit the budget rather than building something that excites the intended crowd. Like in my opinion, in today's luxe market, the minimum room space should be 10 square meter. You build 9 square meter rooms that is acceptable to the mass market crowd, fair enough. But the luxe people wants space. Now I get it, there's a fine line between managing the size so that the ultimate price tag is kept affordable, but if there's more research gone into understanding the area and what they really need, then you can create a product that is best of both worlds. Now on the other hand, why the likes of Rivergate and Yong An Park can prosper so well? Now look at the grounds they have. Rivergate is a no-brainer, layouts are sizable, comfortable with a nice development setup. Yong An Park has one of the biggest land plot in River Valley. Layouts and vibes are very old school. So who do you attract? People who have deeper pockets and really wants a space, which Yong An Park has it all, with the exception of it being a little bit too old, but offset by very, very nice ground. Now, there is a common denominator on what performs well and what might not. Oh yeah, before I forget, talking about the room space ideally being more than 10 square meter, again, my profession is not there by architect. Maybe there's certain restrictions in giving you sizable rooms, but can we please give them something that the target audiences really want? Because their pockets are people to have a preference. Just figure out how to juggle between giving space and making sure it doesn't severely affect your quantum lah. Making maybe the living room or yard can be a little bit smaller here and there. I don't know. Now back to the topic about land size. The middle category, you have the likes of Inspira, Urbana, where even though their land sizes are pretty small, there are examples of development that has priced that in at a much more affordable entry level and a pretty functional layout. Then ultimately, they will still make money and they'll still fare quite well. All in all, this land size factor is quite consistent throughout the CCR region of not only River Valley, it is the same for Orchard and even like Newton. And the Newton has plenty of classic example of contrasting capital appreciation in developments that can be side by side, but with the clearest differences being in the land size. Now that's not a topic for today, but during your free time, you should really research on properties in Newton to study developments like Park Infinia, Viva, Twilight, even the older leasehold Amaryllis, I think it's called Amaryllis View, and recently TOP Copper, whatever it is. And pit it against the rest like 26 Newton, Suites and Newton, and the nice looking, I think it's called Levy or LVIV. In conclusion, River Valley has been very popular with the more affluent locals, the PLs, and even expats renting. It has quite a good balance of convenience and prestige altogether. As mentioned, it has been the savior of CCR properties for the longest time. This one area in the CCR that has been performing reasonably well. So when people are quick to jump at CCR being the area to avoid, I won't disagree, but please be specific and objective enough to analyze. Don't anyhow lump things up together and say one is bad means all is bad, okay? Granted, if it's purely from an investment point of view, the OCR or LCR might still be the preferred choice, that I have to agree. But one day when the prices of OCR or LCR creeps very close to the CCR price is the day attention might shift. And the next 6 months will be a buffet for investors looking into this area for value or for own use because all the plots are in very good location. Promenade Peak is right beside Great World City at 64 stories high. River Green is right on top of the MRT. Now the plot behind PP or Promenade Peak held by CDL is also equally as convenient. Robertson Opus is the only 999 years of freehold plot that will cater to the atas people whose eyes only fixated on freehold and 999. Upper House is the government's answer to making the Orchard Boulevard area more inclusive by rolling out these government land sales, and UOL has answered it with a variety of options for people who might previously be priced out of the neighborhood that is one of the priciest in Singapore. Now, I'll hopefully be covering one or two of those that I think is worth looking at in time to come when I get more information that might matter. And lastly, any investment methodology can always be, I only want to make money, I don't care about anything, can be even at twice. And there's also another group of people investing with certain element of emotions. That's something we can't deny them because ultimately people might have preferences. Again, not everything is about making money, so don't be too quick to dismiss the CCR just because it's not your cup of tea. Learn how to see things from others' perspective. Some people might be obsessed in making money. Some people might find property being the best investment just by having a place they can live in and feel good about it, even if it means they make less money.